Hello, my name is James Wash, and I'm making, at almost 10 o'clock at night, a confectionery video. Recently, I made some chocolate to see if I could, and it was alright. It beats, the phrase I keep using is it beats World War II orphan rations, if not by much. And I made it, and I shared it with some friends, and one of them enjoyed it, and I have enough ingredients to make another batch. So I plan to do that, to give as a gift, and also to just slowly empty my cupboard a bit, because, and I wanted to document this process and share, because I thought it was a neat time, and very simple for what you need to end up doing. Apologies, I realized I will need a bowl. I can get a paper bowl for this project, can I? We'll get a normal bowl. Normally I'd use a mixing bowl for a project like this, but my mixing bowls are metal and should not be microwaved. Yeah. So, the way this starts is simple. We start off with coconut oil. Most recipes for chocolate and chocolate bars you'll find online use cocoa butter, food grade cocoa butter, which I could not find at the local Walmart, but coconut oil is a not uncommon replacement, and I'll leave a link to the recipe I used in the description. But you see, you start with a third cup of coconut oil, which is a very interesting substance. It's very malleable. It has a very low melting point of about 76 degrees Fahrenheit. So, and we're going to need it melted. So I'm going to scoop about a third cup. There's more in this jar than I thought there was, which is interesting. But yeah, scoop about a third of a cup into a measuring cup. I'm going to scoop it into this bowl here. And the reason I scoop it into the bowl is so that I can melt it in the microwave. And you could do that on a saucepan too. That's what the recipe prefers, but I looked it up. You can melt cocoa butter in saucepans. One common method is just taking a jar and immersing it in not even particularly hot, just warm water to essentially melt the whole jar. You pour out it as a liquid however much you need, and then pouring it into whatever recipe you need it for. Let me put this away, and I'll discuss the mechanics of the microwaving in a moment. Let me just wash this spoon off. Again, due to its very low melting point, cleaning coconut oil off things, provided you can just run them under warm water, is essentially trivial. Next, after that, I'm going to pour a third of a cup of cocoa powder. In this case, I just use standard Hershey's unsweetened cocoa powder. And I'll save that for something else in a moment. Let me get another spoon since that one's wet, and this is a box of powders, and you could get water in it. It would just clump up and be a mess. I'm all about cleanliness here. Cocoa powder is very fine, and it's very easy to make a mess of, so when you're scooping a third of a cup of cocoa powder, you want to be very careful. You ideally want to do it over the box. Yeah. And it's still getting in a few places where I wish it would not be, which is unfortunate. Let me grab another measuring tool. Tablespoon. A teaspoon will about do. I'm making half the quantity in the recipe I found online, so that means I will be using, in addition to a third of a cup of coconut oil, and a third of a cup of cocoa powder. I will also be using a third of a cup of honey, and a half tablespoon, which is a little bit more than a teaspoon, but we'll be fine. I don't love the honey as a sweetener, and I'll discuss why in a little bit. Well, I can discuss it now. Basically, and this is something else you'll see when I show off the batch I made earlier, but because the honey, the chocolate never fully sets. It's always ever so slightly gooey even after sitting in the freezer for a while, and you will want to keep this refrigerated. Ugh, that looks close to spilling, but it's honey. We should be okay. And then... Come on. Trying to pour a bit here. Okay. There we go. That'll about stop it. Okay. So, as a demonstration, cocoa powder, third cup, and careful not to spill, we have third a cup and about half a tablespoon of honey. Let me just put the cap back on the bear and also the cocoa powder, and I will get started with all the steps. Cocoa powder, very messy. Not a huge fan as an ingredient. The honey as well. Not enough for at least another batch. Well, half batch by the recipe, but yeah. Typically it's probably more than enough. And finally also half teaspoon, quarter teaspoon, because I'm making a half batch, quarter teaspoon of vanilla extract. I'm going to do that over the sink. Oh, forgot how runny that is. Vanilla extract. What do they extract from it? Surely I do not know. Oh, close. Making chocolate of any form is an exercise in mess avoidance. Okay, so I'm going to be melting the coconut oil and mixing the ingredients in this bowl, this sort of stoneware bowl. And coconut oil melts very fast, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to set the microwave to 30 seconds and check it about every 5. And stirring as well. I'm not going to edit this any, because that's a lot of effort. So you all just get to put up with a lot of blank noise. Doesn't look very melted at all. Strange. We'll leave it for a little bit longer this time. Okay. Have to be careful. I once briefly covered myself in... Okay, it's getting the melty consistency. I once covered my socks in coconut oil from... That was very runny. Which is a misfortune. Do I need to stir it a bit? Perhaps that's the issue. What a disgusting substance. Ah, well. Not much to be done about that. I can't get cocoa butter normally. Okay. Careful, 2 hands. Not doing 2 hands is how I got in trouble the last time. And something you might notice throughout this whole process is that it's pretty quick. Like, all the steps are going to be quite fast. Even the, even with me talking, this could take like 30 minutes maybe, but like, really it would not take that much. Ooh. Coconut oil's dripping. Forgot to do something about that. Okay. Should be totally melted. Yeah. Oh. A couple of blobs. We might run it for a minute or two. Not a minute or two. That would be hardly necessary. But maybe like another couple of seconds just to get those last blobs melted. We ideally want everything to be of the same consistency. You really don't want to overdo it, it seems, based on the stuff I've read. Even the 5 seconds there might have been overkill. But yeah. You can see, I'm just going to carefully tilt it towards the camera. You can see this is clear coconut oil with just some, like, it's a little bit brown because some cocoa powder got in already from the spoon. But still perfectly clear, generally. You can definitely smell coconut off it, and you will smell coconut off the chocolate you make with this. I'm going to take the 3rd cup of cocoa powder. Ugh. Too much too quickly. But yeah, it's in the bowl. I'm just going to mix it. And mixing it here is a fun part. I really enjoy it, and you'll see why in a moment. It takes a while always, especially like, this isn't the best bowl for mixing things. Well, just because it's kind of shallow. I guess it's not too bad. I wouldn't recommend tasting it at this stage. It does take on this very like hot chocolate-like look and color, but it's unsweetened except for the coconut oil, so it's still quite bitter. Do not recommend tasting it at this stage. Hardest part here is just getting all the cocoa powder off the sides of the bowl. Let me just show you real quick. I'm not fully done with the mixing yet, but you can already see it has a very rich chocolatey color, bit of texture. Let me just scrape some of the powder down off the sides of the bowl. I've recently had difficulties with like the stand, the camera tripod, and button I used to record videos like the weather reports, and also this now that I'm doing it. So the setup is a little bit scuffed, and I can't quite focus on the bowls as I'm mixing things as well as I should have. And also that requires editing, and editing requires effort, and it's 10 o'clock at night. Okay, this should... I wish I had a whisk. I don't have a whisk. I think I had one once, but I lost it. No matter. This has got most of it pretty homogeneous, I would say. Got most of the powder mixed in. There we go. Have to tap the spoon a bit just to get some of it off. Hopefully the coconut oil is not cooling. Okay. Now we add the honey and the vanilla extract. This will serve as a sweetener. Ooh. There we go. I was a little bit more careful with the measurements this time as opposed to the last time I made the chocolates. Partially because I spilled a substantial portion of coconut oil the last time. So hopefully, this will all turn out a little bit better than my first batch. And again, I'll show you a close-up detail on that first batch in a little while. For right now, I need to mix the honey. Honey doesn't really change the color any. It does make it a little bit thicker. A little bit harder to mix, which is hardly surprising. I can see a bit of a honey glaze over the spoon. Having a mixer or a whisk again would be really helpful. I should get, if I'm going to do this regularly, which I'm not sure I will, but if I do, definitely need to get a whisk because there's a mild lack of homogeneity in the chocolate solution that I've produced that is immensely frustrating to me. I'd say that's... I don't know. Kind of just trying to go for an Instagram-worthy moment, I suppose, if you want that. I'm going to add the vanilla extract and mix that in just a moment. Yeah, definitely next time should just use a mixing bowl just for the extra depth. It allows you to mix it at greater speeds, greater energies. Oops. Vanilla extract in. Little brown dots over the surface that'll soon be mixed in with the rest of the chocolate. And the way you prepare this is interesting. It actually flows quite easily, I find. So what I did the first time is I have a candy bar mold from Walmart, one of two, and I literally just poured it in and it just filled it like gold ingots, like you'd see like with blacksmiths and pouring metal. It's very, very cinematic, very cool looking. And that was probably easier than like this one I wanted to do, because I've shared that bar, this sort of standard candy bar, with my friends, but what I have not shared is this bear mold. I picked bears instead of hearts. There was two molds besides the standard candy bar mold, because I assumed of the two shapes, bears are generally less presumptuous than hearts. So what I'll do, and like for the classic candy thing, I could just pour this in and it just ran beautifully. This one, because the bears are separated, I'm going to have to just scoop it with the spoon. And maybe I could orient this in such a way that you can see it. Mayhaps. Oh, I don't love that. That looks very unbalanced. But it does work. So we'll try it for now, and I'll just trust my reflexes are just that good. You can see I'm going to take some of the it's getting increasingly solid, which I don't love. But what we're going to do is we're just going to take the spoon of chocolate, we're just going to fill a bear. I might have enough for the standard candy bar mold. Yeah, I don't love how it drips off the sides. I feel like it's maybe a bit too full. Not much to be done about that at the moment, though. I'm just gonna mix it, fill the next one. Okay, I'm just gonna lift. Ooh. So ideally what you do here is you fill the molds, you tap the molds to make sure the air bubbles get out, and then you pop it in the freezer for it to become about as solid as it's going to get. And when I say about as solid as it's going to get, I'll show you what that means in a little while. I hope the honey is not mixing out. Jeez, perhaps I have not worked fast enough. Okay. Ugh. Yeah, this is getting increasingly messy. I'm uncertain of what texture this is taking on, because I don't love these chocolates personally, but I don't want to make garbage. I want them to be like well mixed and homogeneous and tasty. Tasty is good. Okay, scoop that up. We're just gonna dump that in here. Okay. Scoop. Okay, I'm just gonna need to clean up the counter after this. That's fine. I've been interested in chocolate for a long time. I got a really interesting book on chocolate as a kid. Yeah, there you can see the honey's kind of hard to get mixed in with well, hang on a sec if we cut it. Okay, yeah, so it's mixed in there. But I read an interesting book on chocolate as a kid. I got like Hershey World Land. I forget what it's called. Hershey, Pennsylvania. And it's always interested me, and I was a big fan of like the Willy Wonka movie from like the 70s with Gene Wilder. And over Christmas break, in a period of frustration, creatively and professionally, I... Not loving the way that looks. But, just in the middle of that, someone was watching that movie again, and it's the beginning where the candy shop owner sings and, like, about the candy man and all that. It's just like, I don't know. I became interested again in doing something like this. And so I did. Of course, Timothy Chalamet had to come along and steal my thunder, but there's not much to be done about that, is there? Da 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 da. There might just be enough for the standard candy mold. Not loving the texture. Makes me a little nervous. I'm sure it'll be fine, he said to himself, unconvinced. Okay. Okay. Dip that. Last one. Let's get a good mix going. Perhaps I should have melted the coconut oil in the saucepan. Not so much because I need it to melt it in the saucepan, but just because it gives me a little bit more time to work. Okay. So I'm going to take a small fork. I'm just going to tap the sides just to release some air bubbles. Just tap it around. Yeah, this is going to be a cleanup job, ain't it? I'm just going to poke around in there just to make sure that no air bubbles are trapped in there. Well, my friend is certainly getting her money's worth of chocolate. I mean, she's getting it for free, so I guess definitionally she would. But, geez, I really overfilled some of these. I'm sure it'll be fine. It's just a mild frustration. I think it makes the product a little bit worse. Not that I'm selling this. It's... I don't know why I'm taking an inordinate amount of concern with how these look. But yeah. Final step, arguably the hardest, is just moving the mold into the freezer without spilling it all over the place. Okay. Cool. Freezer is cool. Funny. Okay. So I have some of this leftover mix, and that's fantastic because it means I get to use this. And this one isn't bad at all. We're just going to mix it up a bit. We're going to hold the utensils, and you get to see me just pour it in like so, and it just fills the mold so cleanly, so crisply, so evenly. Just enough to get some in there. Yeah, this is gonna be great. When I first poured it, like for my first batch, it was like very runny and very even over the top. Though I didn't tap or like check for air bubbles, so it was kind of just filled with them, and it kind of ruined the texture in some places, which frustrated me to no end, as you can imagine. Let's get a little bit more. Let's get a wee bit more chocolate in there, huh? Oh god, there's stuff in the bowl. Stuff on the bowl. My hands are sticky. I hate when my hands are sticky. I find it immensely displeasing. Yeah. We're basically just getting the sludge at this point. Trying to grab every last drop before we pop this baby in the dishwasher. Ugh. Yuck. Yuck, yuck, yuck. Okay. Doesn't look terrible. Kind of flattened it out nicely. Just gonna tap around with the spoon just to make sure that any air bubbles have been removed. I still haven't developed a good technique for that yet. Oh, That's fine. That's just the jar of chocolate that I have ready to show everybody. Just gonna pop this sucker in the fridge too. Make sort of a flat brick. Beautiful. This might be my masterpiece of the 2 times I've tried this. Yep, about 30 minutes, I'm calling it. So that'll have to sit in the freezer for at least a couple of hours. And I'll show you the final result, what it looks like roughly. This is from my first batch, made Thursday, instead of reading a math paper because I was freaking out. And see, this is like the way it broke when I snapped it in pieces. And this is how it's going to break. Like I'm going to take these 2 off, these 2 squares. Yeah, some pieces fell. But you can see it's like not really like a clean break. Kind of a frayed edges break. And I suspect, and I've given it to some friends, one who liked it enough that I was asked them if they wanted some more. And they suspect it's due to the honey, which I would buy, and only ascertains that I want to if I make this again, I want to do it with cocoa butter and confectioner sugar to make a real candy bar in the sense that I think about, something crisp. It's very melty. I think that's partially due to the coconut oil. It's never fully sets, even when it's frozen. It's always gooey. Has a bit of coconut taste to it. Sweet. It's kind of like a dark chocolate, I suppose, a little bit. I'd say it's darker. Darker than a normal Hershey's milk chocolate bar. Definitely a hint of coconut flavor. Not much, but it is noticeable. Not the worst thing I've ever had. Not the worst thing I've ever made. Just not quite what I want it to be. But not much to be done about that. Tomorrow morning, I'll open up the fridge. Open up the freezer, I should say. Collect the bears, snap them out of the molds. Put them in mason jars like this one. Due to a poor investment, I have 12 mason jars, which I very rarely use. So it's good for carting these around. Chocolates have to stay refrigerated. So I'll just pop it in the fridge at work and give it to my friend later. Hope they enjoy it. I think they'd like the bears and nothing else. Bear shape. Yep. It's all over but the cleaning now. I'll spare you that. But yeah, that's how you make some chocolate bars. And if I try and make them more or in a different way, I might post it again. Have a good day.